And welcome today. My name is Mike Rabinowitz, and I'm here to talk to you about comebacks. That's right. We all have setbacks in our life, and it's not that it's going to happen, but it's how we come back. It's how we get up off the floor and come back better than ever. And it's really important for your success. And one of, I think, the most important tools you have in order to help you with those comebacks or just help you be successful in general is communication skills. Yes, I know it's a generic topic. We use it all the time. I always see it on resumes. I always have heard about it during job interviews, and people would say how their communication skills are one of their strong points. And I was always skeptical about that because it's a phrase we throw around a lot. And one question I would ask people is, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to have good communication skills? And you know what? People usually fumble through the answer. It's like, well, I like to talk to people, and everybody likes to talk to people. That doesn't make you a good communicator. And then I follow up with another question, which is, how do you know that you have good communication skills? Because when you think about interacting with people, and when you think about trying to connect and build relationships, who's the real judge of whether you're a good communicator? It's certainly not you. It's not. You know who it is? The people you're communicating with. They're the ones who are going to kind of perceive this image of you, and whether you're reliable and credible and nice to talk to, and whether you have a good voice, or whether you're understanding, you have an open mind, you're not stubborn, are you engaging? Those are the type of things that people are thinking about when engaging with you. So here's what I really want you to know. Here's what I really want you to remember when it comes to communication skills. When you are interacting with people, what do they see and what do they hear? Because we are not aware of it. We don't have a mirror up all the time when we're talking. And we think we know what we sound like, but we really don't. And I'll explain what I mean by that. So communication is about being responsible and accountable for what people see and hear from you. And I think we have to be much more conscious of that. So I'm going to give you a few tips and tricks today how to be more conscious of what people see, so you can really be that sharp communicator that people are drawn to and people are engaged by and people talk about all the time. So the first thing I want to talk about is, again, 3 major things that really have a lot to do with what people see and hear. And there are 3 things that I think are the core of anybody's communication skills. And they are, number 1, what do people see? And that involves your body language. That involves your movements. Body language involves almost every part of your body: your hands, your legs, your eyes, your eyebrows, your head movement, your hand gestures. They are all sending out signals to people, even if you're not talking. Body language puts out messages to people, and it's based on how they perceive it. So again, we need to be more conscious of what our body is doing. Just by walking, you can put out that you have a lot of confidence. You can put out some arrogance and that you think you're better than everybody. Your walk can show your lack of confidence. Your walk can show your lack of self-esteem. Your walk can show your fun side. But are you aware of what that looks like? Because people are watching you and they're looking at you and they're already getting messages before you say anything. And also, how do you present yourself? When you're in the workplace, are you appropriate for the workplace, for the industry that you're in? Because people are watching. Do you look like you care about what you look like? I know that sounds weird, but and it's not about what hairstyle you have or what clothes you're wearing, but it does matter if you care about what you look like. Are you well groomed? Do your clothes fit? Are they clean? And are they appropriate for your environment? So those things are something we have to be aware of. And then your personal hygiene also plays a part. Do you practice good hygiene? And it's not about smelling good. It's not about perfume and cologne. No, it's about not smelling. That's really all it takes. If people talk to you and you don't smell, well, that's a good thing. It's no news is good news. So you can either smell too good or you can smell bad if you're not practicing hygiene. So that also is part of body language. So we have to watch our gestures with our hands. I can say, I want to talk to you and say, hey, come on into my office. Or I could say, please come into my office. I'd like to talk to you. See the difference there? Those two gestures were saying two different things. And then another big part of your body language is your face. Yes, your face, your facial expressions. Do you know that you have 43 muscles in your face and you have the ability to make over 100 different faces? And what are those faces saying? Just like the body language, your face is sending out a message. And is it aligned with your intention of what you want to say? And then there's one particular face that really plays a part in communication, and that's called the resting face. And I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase, but yeah, it's a phrase that people use all the time. Sometimes people put the B word in there. I don't want to say what it is. It's the female dog, the resting B face. And here's what happens with your face. Now, when you relax, when you're just relaxing in your office, maybe you're not thinking about anything. You're looking at the computer screen, you're looking at your phone, you're just chilling. All your muscles relax in your face and they tend to go down, right? Because of gravity. So what happens if all the muscles in your face go down? What does that look like? And I'm telling you that you have to be familiar with your resting face because you probably put it out there several times in a day. And sometimes that can send the wrong message to people as far as your communication is concerned. So here's a good exercise to help you get more familiar with your face. Get in front of a mirror, close your eyes, right? And then for about 10 or 15 seconds, totally relax your body. Just like shake it out, relax, and almost to the point where you're ready to just sit, like find your zen. At that moment, when you're most relaxed, open your eyes. You know what you're going to see in that mirror? Your resting face. That's what it's going to look like. And I guarantee you, most of you out there are not going to like it. Then you're not going to like it because it looks either angry or mad or confused or pensive. And I've had people come into my training classes that say, you know, I've been sent to this training class because my coworkers tell me I'm mad all the time. And I'm not. And I said, I think I know what it might be. So we need to get familiar with your resting face. And that's one exercise that's going to help you do that. Now, close your eyes a second time, do that relaxing exercise. Then when you open your eyes, before you do, smile a little bit. Just put a slight smile on your face and see the difference. You'll have a neutral face, one that you don't mind people seeing, or you'll have a slight authentic smile. And we want to get used to what that feels like because when we make faces, what we feel like we're doing is a little different than what shows, and you need to get used to it. So that's an important part of your body language. Another big aspect to communication is your voice. Yes, what do you sound like? And I can tell you this, most people are not familiar with that. Did this ever happen to you where you had an opportunity to listen to yourself on a recording, and then when you heard it, you went, OMG, do I really sound like that? Because most people don't like the sound of their voice. And you know why? Because it does sound a little different. But that's the way you sound to people. So when you ask the question, do I really sound like that? The answer is yes. So my advice to you is to get used to that voice. Have somebody record you. Get somebody that you are close to, that you trust, with your permission, and record you in a conversation. Because one of the most eye-opening things you'll get is listening to yourself. And you'll listen to how you articulate, and you listen if you have any filler words. I used to have a big problem with filler words. I still have a little bit of a problem. I'm working on it, but I used to have a big problem. And until I heard myself, I wasn't able to get over it. But the impact of hearing the way I sounded, oh, it worked miracles for me. And when I got over it. So your voice is a big deal. How do you sound? And then probably the third most important thing is your words. We know we speak to communicate, but what is your word choice? What words do you choose? You got to be careful not to choose trigger words for people or like emotionally charged words. Or are you going to use street lingo and slang, or are you going to be very proper? Well, that depends on who it is. One of the things I tell people, and it's sort of a Mikeism, is always use the double A approach when you communicate. The double A approach is assess and adjust. Yes, and that means that you, before you speak, you assess the situation. Who am I talking to? Where am I? What's the environment? And when you think about who it is, then you adjust your message. So if I want to say good morning to you, and if you're a good buddy that we hang out all the time, I'll say, hey, what's up? How's it going? But if it's like the CEO of my company, I'm not going to, hey, what's up? I'm going to be good morning, ma'am, or good morning, sir. Right? So that's the adjustment I'll make because I want my message to be as intended. And I'm using my body language, I'm using my voice, and I'm using the words to make sure that they are aligned with what I'm intending to do. So very, very important part of communication. That's the core. And if you have a setback, if you have a tough time in your life, good communication, smiling at people, being able to connect and network, well, that's one way you can be able to come back. Now, another important part of communication that people forget about, you know what that is? Listening. Yes, I know we've all heard it before, listening. And anybody that's in a relationship or a partnership probably knows that listening can be a vital part of a relationship. Hearing and listening are two different things. Have you heard that before? I know I have. I've been guilty of it. So here's the deal. Listening is not about what you think. And I always ask people, do you think you're a good listener? And most of the time it's like, yeah, I think I'm a pretty good listener. You know what? It doesn't matter what you think. The important part of listening is the person that's talking needs to think you're listening. So not only do we need to hear the words in our brain to try to interpret what the person's saying, but we need to be an active listener. You know what that means is that you're physically showing that you're listening. You're looking at the person, you're making good eye contact. You are not on this thing while they're talking. You're asking questions, you're reacting, you're nodding. That's what a good listener looks like. Because think about when you're talking to people and you get the feeling they're not listening. What does that look like? What are they doing? Most people, it's like, well, they're not making eye contact with me, or they interrupt me, or their questions have nothing to do with what I said. And you don't like that, do you? It's an insult, and it's not good for your relationship and the connection you have with that person. So we have to make sure that we show all the signs of listening, eye contact, facial expressions, say things like, that's interesting, or wow, or how did you feel about it? Just some interaction while somebody's talking. Because once somebody gets the feeling that you are focused and listening to them, well, that opens up many possibilities. One of which they will then be open to what you have to say. Even if it's the opposite point of view, they'll be more open to it. You know why? Because you have listened to them. And that's the perception they got. So active listening means listening to the words, hearing, but playing the part. Do all the body language, facial expressions, interaction stuff. All right, so that's another important aspect of communication. And finally, let's talk about some obstacles that get in the way for you being a really good communicator. And some of them we've heard about. They are different personality types, right? So you might, you double A somebody, like I explained before, and your personality type is one thing you're going to consider in how you're going to send your message out. Cultural background, or the culture of companies that they worked for, that's going to be a factor. Gender, identification, all that is going to play a part. Job title certainly plays a part in what type of messages you give people. But all those aside, one of the most influential and prevalent things that are in today's society is generational workforces. Yes, people. And here's why. People are living longer. People are healthier. People are not retiring at 55, 60 years old anymore. You have people in companies for 30, 40 years in their 50s, 60s, even 70s. So what that means is that they are working with more generations, right? You have the baby boomers, which I am, right? Then you have the Gen Xers, then you have the millennials. And now you have the post-millennials or Gen Zs in the workforce. So now you have 4 generations together in a workplace. How do you handle that? How does a baby boomer like myself really learn to communicate with a Gen Z? Because let's face it, how you perceive the world is based on what you were exposed to in your life. And I think how I perceive the world might be a little different than somebody that's coming out of college, in the workforce. They're post-millennial. They just view the world differently. And there are many different communication channels that people of the younger generations are used to, or savvy, where, I'm old school, right? I mean, yeah, I have a smartphone, but I wasn't born into this technology, was I? I had to learn it, and I'm still learning it. And if I ever say to somebody young that I don't like to text, they probably roll their eyes at me. But do you know why I don't like to text? Because I'm not good at it. I wasn't bought into it. I'm still a pecker, right? I can't do the thumbs. Now, people like my children who are millennials and the Gen Z's generation, they are savvy with this. And it's okay. I accept it. I used to be in computer IT, and I also used to be a New York City police officer. So I have a lot of experience in communication. And as I got older, I communicated more with younger people than myself. And like my kids, I taught my son how to build a computer, and he got very good at it. And I taught him everything he knows. But now when I have trouble with my smartphone, who do I go to? I go to my son, because I am accepting that he is savvy at this, and I will communicate that way. I will say, listen, you're so good with this. Let me ask you, help me with Facebook, help me, with my messages. And it's okay. I don't let ego get in the way. Yes, I used to be a computer whiz, but that was back in the 90s. Now I have to keep up with this technology. So with the different generations, do some research and try to think how that person perceives the world, and then make that adjustment. I want to make a connection with people that I meet and I work with, and they can't all be from my generation, and I can't expect people to be like me, right? Everybody has their own personality, but I still want to connect with them, right? We make connections all the time. We build rapport with people, and every one of those connections are different. So we have to. Don't be pressured by feeling like you have to be friends or be soulmates with somebody that you connect with. Connections can be fleeting. Connections can be somebody I only speak to once or twice a week in my workplace. And I get information from them, and we do projects together, and that's it. I don't go out to lunch with them. I don't know their families' names, but I have a good connection with them. And then there are other people that I do socialize with, and I have a really solid connections. Sometimes it builds friendships. Connections come in many forms, but your desire to connect has to be there. So when we have setbacks, it's okay. We're gonna have setbacks. It's happened already, and it's going to happen again. So don't fret, be ready for them. And know that you can bounce back. And being a really sharp, conscious communicator that takes responsibility for the messages they put out there, well, that can be a great tool to help you get back up and be better than you ever were, and more successful. So I hope you enjoyed today. I hope you got some takeaways from it. My name is Mike Rabinowitz, and thank you for joining.